welcome to another edition of Sermon and Song with Blue in the Face. I'm Chris Catalano, and I'm going to talk to you about all things love of God until I'm, blue in the face. All of us are touched by the deep impact over the loss of our loved ones. The past few editions, we've looked at various aspects of our grieving process. Today, let's finish our 5-part series on bereavement. Today's topic, what is taken and what remains. My grandmother spent nearly all of her 94 years living in the Bronx, a place of my childhood filled with countless magical memories. Her father, my great-grandfather, was responsible for the building of St. Philip Neri Church on the Grand Concourse. Many a time she would tell the story of how Grandpa Paul told the priests to make sure they built the church big because even though it was only the early 1900s, the population would expand and a large church would become necessary. And so it went. The stones had to be carried one by one from the nearby reservoir in order to be shaped and cut. One by one, they formed the skeleton of the building that became St. Philip Neri Church. One time, my grandmother was able to persuade the music director to let me try to play the big pipe organ after Mass one Saturday evening. I'll never forget how excited I was. I couldn't believe I was going to get the opportunity of a lifetime to play such a huge and beautiful instrument. I remember how long the Mass seemed until we would get to approach him. It was a moment made in heaven, and then it finally happened. I finally got to try a real pipe organ. The instrument was very old, and it sounded just incredible as it filled the large open space, the notes echoing off the very stones my great-grandfather had placed with his own hands. I remember the day, I remember the moment, I remember exactly what I played, and I remember exactly how it made me feel. The joy was immediate, the memory was forever. When I began to teach in the fall of 1996, as we drew to the end of my first year, the calendar turned to June. One particular morning I'll never forget. On the way to work that morning, as I always did, I tuned in to hear the news on the radio. Then I heard the devastating story. St. Philip Neri Church was gone. During the overnight, a massive fire had gutted the sacred place, reducing it to mere ruins. It was just a shell, a mere shell of burnt stone and ashes. It was gone. The church, once a fixture in all of our lives, was gone. As your journey down the road of grief progressed, there came a time for many of you when you started to go through some of your loved ones' personal items. I could never begin to imagine how that hurt. In the absence of a person, a loved one's personal effects are as close as we can get to the one we long for. When St. Philip Neri burned to the ground, I was devastated. There was so much that went with it. What sadness. What a loss. But do you see the deeper reality? Even though the church was destroyed, even after all these years, I'm still able to recount for you the story of that magical Saturday afternoon at the pipe organ in vivid detail. No matter what happened to the church, the memory could never and will never leave me. Nothing could ever take from me the joy I felt my first time filling the church with the sound of a real pipe organ. Yes, the church was gone, but the memory will live forever. The same is true for you. As you continue to grieve, you'll begin to look at your loved one's possessions. No matter what you do with the possessions, like my everlasting memory of the pipe organ, the stories and memories that accompany the belongings will always stay with you. They'll never leave you. I mean, think about it. The church was completely destroyed. Yet I never lost the memory and the significance of that day. The same is true for you. Even if every possession of your loved one mysteriously vanished overnight, the stories and memories that go with each of them will remain as sacred to you as that church that was destroyed. And just as St. Philip Neri was built slowly, one stone at a time, so was your love you and your loved one built one story and one memory at a time. Neither time nor death can steal the sacred place that always stands erect in your soul. It remains an everlasting temple of your love for one another. In fact, your beloved has already placed their greatest possessions within you, namely their love for you, their care for you, their prayers for you, their stories they left with you, the life lessons, their laugh, their generosity, their concern for all they met, their sensitivity, their love of God, their legacy. These possessions still adorn every room of your heart. They will never be packed or given away. And those intangible possessions they left you with that you hold dear are meant to be shared with the world over to bring it warmth. So give as a gift to the world your loved one's love for you. Give to the world their care. Give their prayers, their stories, their life lessons, their laughter, their sensitivity, their legacy, their love of God. Give those possessions of your loved one to the world, because as you do, we become better for it, and their legacy is brought to completion in you. Now, life is all about relationships. For example, you defined yourself and got your identity as his wife. You are her mother. You are her daughter. Life is all about relationships. One of the most difficult things about losing your loved one is that part of you is now lost. You receive so much of your identity by being their husband, wife, mother, or father. It's who you were. The loss of your loved one was at once partially a loss of you because that relationship seems broken. This is one reason why this is also difficult. You have been a victim of identity theft. Cancer made you a victim of identity theft. A car accident made you a victim of identity theft. Some other circumstance made you a victim of identity theft. But with all the changes in relationships you have been through over the years, and with all the different ways you identified yourself over the years, the one constant relationship is that you have always been a child of God. This relationship not only has never changed and will never change, it's also the one relationship that supersedes and defines all others. As first the child of God, you are able to then be a part of all the other relationships in your life in a deep and meaningful way. Many of you have lost a loved one to cancer. While cancer did ultimately claim your loved one's physical life, it didn't take their greatest possessions along with it. No, these remain. It didn't take their mind, their heart, or their soul. All other things, possessions, belongings, material things, become somewhat meaningless when compared to these greater gifts, their mind, their heart, and their soul. In fact, what's truly so profound is that as they prepared to die, they left you to be the caretaker of their gifts of love, warmth, sensitivity, their stories, and their legacy. Nothing will ever take the spiritual gifts and possessions your loved one left for you either. They live within you. They never die. No fire will ever be able to destroy the temple of love that you both built, one stone at a time. I offer you this one last song called This Day in Paradise. I wrote this many years ago to celebrate my grandmother's funeral. And I recently sang it again for her son, my dad's funeral. I offer this as a closing prayer for all those we grieve for. May they join us in song from where they look down upon us, watch over us, and love us this day in paradise. In your hands, Lord, I place my spirit. in our song. Death is around us, pain now surrounds us. Lovingly you hear us, in hope now we pray for your servant. May God the Father welcome you, may God the Son now comfort you, may God the Spirit light your way to sing this day in paradise. God of all mercy, author of heaven and earth, hear through our voicing, faith sings rejoicing. Mercifully you hear us, in joy now we pray for your servant. May God the Father welcome you, may God the Son now comfort you, may God the Spirit light your way to sing this day in paradise. God of all wisdom, author of healing and grace, here in your tending, life is not ending. Tenderly you hear us, in love now we pray for your servant. May God the Father welcome you, may God the Son now comfort you, may God the Spirit light your way to sing this day in paradise. May God the Father welcome you, may God the Son now comfort you, may God the Spirit light your way to sing this day